recently, it occurred to me, I had never really read a biography of Thomas Jefferson. It seems strange. I've studied the Founding Fathers quite extensively. I've read biographies on a number of them, actually, but I hadn't read one on Thomas Jefferson. So I picked this book up on the cheap, Jon Meacham's Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power. And so, quickly, I'm going to give you a little book review of Meacham's work on Jefferson. It's good. And that's about all I have to say about it. Okay, so here's the deal with Meacham's book here on Jefferson, which was a New York Times bestseller on the nonfiction list, but as you can see, it's dropped in price considerably. I picked it up very cheap at Barnes & Noble. What I really want to say about this book is that it is quite interesting. It's a good read on Thomas Jefferson, but if you're like me and you studied the Founding Fathers fairly extensively, you know your Jefferson pretty well, as I do. There's nothing in this book that I found all that revealing or interesting. Meacham didn't really take a hardline opinion on anything Jefferson did or said. He kind of played it down the middle. So it's a very disinterested sort of, and not uninterested, mind you, disinterested look at Jefferson. I feel like Meacham does a pretty good job of staying neutral on some very controversial things in Jefferson's life, especially in his entanglement with Adams, showing some of the right things Adams did and some of the wrong things Jefferson did and the right things Jefferson did and the wrong things Adams did. He maybe takes Jefferson's side just a little, but it's a biography of Jefferson, so you're going to get a little bias this way. In fact, if you don't write a biography that way, I think you're intentionally usually trying to hatchet somebody. But in this case, of course, it leans towards Jefferson because it's about Jefferson. And I've read some Jon Meacham before. I read his book on Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill called Franklin and Winston. It's pretty good. I would recommend that one to anyone as well. It really shows how their relationship evolved through correspondence. And this book is good too, but it's just, I'm going to say, I didn't feel like it added anything personally to my knowledge of Thomas Jefferson. If you feel like you don't know a lot or even anything about Jefferson, this is a good jumping off point. This is a good book. In fact, this is a good jumping off point in many ways for the Founding Fathers in general, because there's a lot of good general information about the group of men that founded the country and ran the early government. There's a lot of information on James Madison, James Monroe, George Washington, Ben Franklin, John Adams. And so this is a book well worth it for those who are inexperienced. For me, though, it was just a little on the dry side. I felt like I really just didn't add anything to my personal knowledge. Maybe some details and minutiae of Jefferson's personal life, which I wasn't really aware of until I gave this book a read. So I don't really want to criticize this book, because it's a pretty good book. It's well written. Meacham's a good writer. He does his research very well. I think the first 500 pages are all the book, and then let's see here. I think all the rest of this is all notes and acknowledgments, author's notes and acknowledgments. But then here we go. This is all bibliography. This is all notes on different things on his resources. It's a very well researched book as well. He gives you his extensive bibliography. He clearly did a lot of work to put this book together. This is not, give Meacham credit. He didn't just throw this book together. He really put a lot of effort into this biography, and I give him credit for writing a very good one. I just personally, in retrospect, maybe didn't need to read this particular book on Thomas Jefferson. And today I'm going to give you a little two-for-one. I'm going to give you a book that has almost nothing to do with history, but I like it so much I want to recommend it. And that is Nick Offerman's Gumption. You're probably saying this book is not historical. Why are you recommending this book? Well, he does talk about some historical figures right at the beginning, and that's how I'm justifying it. He opens up with George Washington and Ben Franklin, James Madison, Frederick Douglass. This book is laudatory of people that Nick Offerman admires, and it's fun. And I don't admire everybody he does, and I have my own people I admire, but getting his take on these characters is really interesting. He brings up some people I had never really heard of before this. I mean, some names that I knew, but didn't really know the details of them. Jeff Tweedy, head of Wilco. I've heard the band Wilco, haven't really listened to their music, but I kind of want to after reading about Jeff Tweedy, and this book is very interesting. And one of his most interesting chapters in here is on Yoko Ono, who's been so classically vilified for breaking up the Beatles, and here he is defending her very ardently. He knows her personally, and it's a very interesting defense of someone I think who's been sort of honestly historically vilified. and that makes it a very interesting read. So there you go. So here you go, two books for the price of one today, and you can read them both. They're both interesting books. Like I said, this one adds nothing really new. If you always feel like you know your Jefferson pretty well, this isn't going to add anything new to your knowledge, but it is a good read if you do feel lacking in the area of Jefferson's philosophy and political career. It's sort of a general overview, doesn't really take a lot of in-depth looks at things, but it goes over all of it. So that's very good. And Nick Offerman's Gumption, which is a really, really fun read. I like Nick Offerman a lot, and I've become a big fan of his. So I recommend this book and this book. So there you go, two books, price one. Hope that gives you a little historical perspective.